My phone screen glowed with 17 unanswered calls. For weeks of silence, shattered overnight. The last words my younger sister screamed at me still echo. Just vanish already. You destroyed everything. My parents stood beside her, silent agreement written across their faces. So I gave them exactly what they asked for. I vanished. Now they're calling nonstop, and my hands won't stop trembling. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might change how you see family loyalty forever. My name is Brittany, I'm 32, and until recently, I believed sacrifice was the truest form of love. Growing up outside Boston with my parents, Margaret and Robert Chen, life appeared picture-perfect from the outside. Our Cape Cod-style home, with its manicured lawn, seemed plucked from a lifestyle magazine. Dad managed financial portfolios while Mom operated a boutique cupcake shop in town. My younger sister Emily arrived 8 years after me, a gap that shaped everything between us from day one. My earliest memories involve responsibility. At 9 years old, I prepared Emily's breakfast before preschool, double-checked her backpack, and made sure she had her favorite blanket at night. Our parents poured energy into building their careers, and I naturally became Emily's second mother. Honestly, I didn't mind. I adored my little sister with her strawberry blonde ringlets and contagious laughter. When her small hand would grip mine, I felt valued, essential. The expectations couldn't have been more lopsided. My report cards demanded perfection. An A- prompted questions about what went wrong. Third place in the regional math competition? Work harder, Sarah. Meanwhile, Emily brought home D's and received celebration just for showing up. She was the baby, the delicate one needing protection. I was the capable one built to handle pressure. Warning signs of our future dynamic emerged when Emily turned 7. Misplaced items mysteriously appeared in my bedroom. When treats disappeared from Mom's shop inventory, evidence somehow landed in my school bag. Small incidents, easily dismissed. The first major event burned itself into my memory. I was 13, Emily only 7. Mom's treasured porcelain figurine, an heirloom from her grandmother, lay in pieces across the hardwood when our parents returned from work. Emily had been reaching for a toy on the top shelf and knocked it over. When questioned, tears pooled in her green eyes as she pointed toward me. Sarah told me I should climb up there. She said I was being a coward for not trying. The disappointment radiating from my parents cut deeper than any grounding could. My explanation fell on deaf ears. How could you encourage such reckless behavior, Sarah? You're old enough to know better. You're supposed to protect your sister. That evening established our pattern for decades ahead. Emily discovered she could redirect consequences with waterworks, and I learned my version of events mattered less than preserving her innocence. Through high school, I maintained straight A's while managing student government, the school newspaper, and weekend shifts at our neighborhood bookstore. Every hour was accounted for, every achievement documented for college admissions. Emily, meanwhile, entered her rebellious phase early, ditching classes, climbing out windows after curfew, experimenting with alcohol and cigarettes by 13. My parents expressed concern but enforced minimal consequences. When she got caught, responsibility somehow circled back to me. You should have noticed something was wrong, Sarah. Why weren't you paying closer attention? You make success look effortless, which makes her feel inferior. The message crystallized. Her choices became my burden. Senior year brought my acceptance to MIT, with full funding. The dream I'd worked toward for years materialized on a gray March afternoon. I jumped around my bedroom, imagining my future in Cambridge. That night at dinner, Mom wept openly. Who's going to help with Emily? Massachusetts might as well be another planet. Dad sat stone-faced, disappointment etched into every line of his expression. 3 weeks later, I declined MIT and accepted Northeastern's partial scholarship. I convinced myself it was practical. Living at home saved money. I could keep my bookstore job. It made logical sense. The relief flooding my parents' faces confirmed I'd made the right decision, even as my Cambridge dreams dissolved like morning fog. College years blurred together through lectures, multiple part-time jobs, and continuing to manage Emily's increasingly chaotic existence. While I protected my scholarships and worked 25 hours weekly, Emily barely scraped through high school and enrolled half-heartedly at community college. She quit after one semester, claiming it wasn't her calling. My parents didn't push. She's discovering herself, they explained. She has time to figure things out. I graduated summa cum laude with my computer science degree and immediately secured a position at a rising tech startup in downtown Boston. My starting compensation exceeded what my parents had ever earned together. I found a compact apartment 20 minutes from the family home, establishing independence while staying accessible for when they needed help. And they always needed something. 5 years passed quickly, my career ascending steadily. What started as junior developer evolved into senior engineer, then team leadership. By 30, I managed 15 programmers and had tripled my initial salary. Each promotion brought congratulatory arrangements from coworkers, celebratory meals with work friends, and increasingly uncomfortable exchanges with my family. Success altered their perception of me. The first time I arrived for Sunday brunch in my new vehicle, a practical but new Toyota, Dad circled it with pursed lips. "Must be comfortable having that kind of money to spend," he commented, despite knowing I'd saved for 3 years to afford it. Mom quickly changed subjects, asking about my dating life. Her usual subtle reminder that professional accomplishments meant nothing without marriage and grandchildren. Emily had cycled through countless positions by then, never lasting beyond a few months anywhere. Server, cashier, office assistant, sales representative for 4 different pyramid schemes. Nothing held her interest. Her living situation, which I'd helped secure with a generous gift covering deposits and first month's rent, changed almost as frequently as her employment. Then she met Derek. 6'3" with an athletic build and a smile that never quite touched his eyes. He worked in construction occasionally, or claimed to. His employment appeared as sporadic as Emily's, but he possessed a swagger she found irresistible. Within 2 months of dating, they cohabitated. Within 5, the story started. They couldn't cover rent because Derek's contractor hadn't paid him yet. Their utilities were disconnected due to a company error. His vehicle broke down, requiring costly repairs. Each emergency mysteriously required precisely the amount Emily knew I'd recently received from bonuses or tax refunds. Information she extracted during our increasingly infrequent family gatherings where conversation inevitably pivoted to my finances. "How much did that promotion increase your income, Sarah?" Emily would probe, Derek beside her absorbing every detail. "That project you mentioned, did you receive that substantial bonus?" Mom and Dad never redirected these invasive questions, appearing equally interested in the answers. The breaking point of this phase arrived when my parents' 14-year-old sedan finally died. Repair costs exceeded the car's worth, leaving them without transportation. Dad needed to reach his financial firm, and Mom's shop required early morning supply runs. Without hesitation, I purchased them a dependable used Honda. Nothing extravagant, just reliable. I delivered it one Sunday morning, handed over the keys, expecting simple gratitude. What I received instead was complicated emotional chaos. Mom cried, Dad looked mortified, and Emily, who happened to be visiting, radiated visible resentment. After I departed, she called. My phone vibrated in the cup holder as I drove away. "So you're just showing off now?" she hissed when I answered. "You know Derek and I have been saving toward a car for months, but you never offered to help us. But you just drop a brand new car in Mom and Dad's driveway like it's nothing. You always need to play the hero, don't you, Sarah?" I attempted explaining our parents needed transportation for their livelihoods, that I wasn't showing off or playing hero. But Emily had already constructed her narrative, one where my generosity was actually a calculated move to make her look inadequate. That evening, Mom called thanking me again for the vehicle, but also gently suggesting perhaps I could help Emily and Derek too, just to maintain family harmony. That marked the first time I clearly recognized the pattern for what it truly was. Regardless of what I did, how I helped, or what I sacrificed, it would never be sufficient. Either I wasn't doing enough or I was doing too much the wrong way. I began creating distance, limiting family gatherings to monthly instead of weekly, screening calls, establishing boundaries that felt foreign and uncomfortable but absolutely necessary. The economic recession hit Boston severely, and my parents' small enterprises suffered almost immediately. Dad's financial clients started cutting expenses, many abandoning professional services for do-it-yourself software. Mom's cupcake shop saw orders plummet as people eliminated luxuries from budgets. Within 7 months, they struggled making mortgage payments on the house that had sheltered us for 27 years. They didn't directly request assistance. They didn't need to. Mom mentioned casually during our monthly dinner how they might need to sell. Dad commented on sleepless nights, worrying about money. Their pride prevented direct requests, but the implications were unmistakable. I offered to cover their mortgage for 6 months, enough time for them to restructure their businesses or find alternative income. The relief washing over their faces was immediate and profound. I established automatic transfers from my account to theirs, barely noticing the financial impact thanks to my recent promotion to principal developer. What I hadn't anticipated was Emily and Derek's situation deteriorating simultaneously. Their apartment complex changed ownership, rents skyrocketed, and they couldn't afford staying. With nowhere else to turn, they moved into our parents' home temporarily. Temporarily stretched from weeks into months, with no conclusion visible. My visits became increasingly stressful. The dining table, once merely the site of uncomfortable conversations, transformed into a battlefield of passive-aggressive remarks and open hostility. Derek would sprawl across the sofa, making minimal effort acknowledging my presence, while Emily cataloged all the ways life had treated her unfairly recently. My parents alternated between mediating and contributing their own complaints. 4 months into covering their mortgage, I discovered something that shook my foundation. I'd stopped by unexpectedly on a Thursday evening to deliver specialty baking supplies Mom needed for a major order. The house seemed empty, but as I set the package on the counter, voices drifted from the back study. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but hearing my name stopped me cold. The real problem is Sarah doesn't understand how dire things actually are, Dad was saying. These mortgage payments help, but the business loan is destroying us. What business loan? I hadn't heard about additional financial troubles. We shouldn't have co-signed for Emily and Derek. Mom's voice sounded exhausted. But they were so confident the landscaping company would succeed. I froze, assembling what I was hearing. My parents had co-signed a business loan for my sister and her boyfriend, a detail nobody had shared despite my substantial financial support. I slipped out without announcing myself, mind racing with questions. Research that evening revealed the truth. 7 months earlier, Derek had convinced Emily he could build a thriving landscaping business. Despite having zero experience in the field or business management, they'd formed an LLC and secured a $60,000 loan with my parents as co-signers. The business collapsed within 2 months, having acquired equipment they couldn't properly operate and employees they couldn't manage. The loan defaulted, leaving my parents liable for the debt on top of their existing financial crisis. I should have felt angry, but all I experienced was bone-deep exhaustion. The following Sunday dinner, I arrived with a carefully constructed proposal. I would help pay down the business loan too, stretching my finances uncomfortably thin but still manageable. In exchange, I wanted Emily and Derek to attend financial literacy courses and create a repayment plan, even if the amounts were minimal. The reaction wasn't what I expected. Rather than gratitude or even embarrassment, my offer met defensiveness. Emily accused me of attempting to control her life. Derek suggested that since I had so much, sharing more of my success was the minimum I could do for family. Most shockingly, my parents sided with them. "You don't understand the pressure they're facing, Sarah," Mom said, patting Emily's hand. "They're young and still learning. Not everyone can be as naturally disciplined as you." I wondered when 30 had become too young for financial responsibility, but kept that observation to myself. I modified my offer, removing all conditions and simply extending financial help. Everyone seemed satisfied with this arrangement, though the atmosphere remained tense. As I was leaving that evening, I overheard Dad in the kitchen with Derek. "She could definitely be contributing more," he was saying. "With what she earns, this barely makes a dent in her finances." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. The mortgage payments and loan assistance constituted nearly 40% of my monthly income. I had postponed my plans purchasing my own home and dipped into emergency savings repeatedly to cover these expenses, but in their perception, it would never be enough. The shattering point arrived on an unremarkable Wednesday. I was reviewing my credit report as part of applying for a condominium I hoped to purchase. Despite the financial strain of supporting my family, I'd managed saving enough for a down payment, and the property was modest enough fitting my adjusted budget. What I discovered sent ice through my veins. 4 credit cards had been opened in my name within the past 5 months. Cards I'd never applied for, received, or used. The addresses listed were variations of my parents' home address. The outstanding balances totaled nearly $23,000. My initial thought was identity theft by an unknown criminal. I began the fraud reporting process only to freeze when the credit card company revealed the phone number associated with the accounts. It was Emily's cell. Reality crashed down like a physical weight. My own sister had stolen my identity, opened fraudulent accounts, and accumulated substantial debt in my name. The purchases, when the representative listed them, were clearly not necessities. Designer handbags, premium electronics, weekend trips to coastal resorts. I spent the remainder of that day in a daze, alternating between disbelief, fury, and heartbreak. This wasn't a misunderstanding or differing priorities. This was premeditated fraud, a crime that could devastate my financial future for years, committed by someone who shared my blood, who I'd helped raise, who I'd sacrificed for repeatedly.